Good morning, students. Welcome to Computer Organization class. This is Veena A. Patil from Department of CSE BLE CET Vijaypur. In the previous video, we have studied about what is bus arbitration, how many types of bus arbitrations are there, that is centralized and decentralized or distributed arbitration, and we have also seen how they work. The working pattern also we have discussed. So today we are going to study about the buses, different type of buses. Now the primary function of a bus connecting main memory, processor and input output device is to provide a communication path for the transfer of data. We all know that. Now in addition, the bus includes the line needed to support interrupts and to implement arbitration functions. So in this video, we will discuss about different features of the bus protocol used for transferring of data. Now, what is a bus protocol? A bus protocol is set of rules that govern the behavior of data transmission of various devices connected to the bus. The protocol, it specifies parameters such as asserting control signals, timing of placing the information on the bus, rate of data transfer, and so on. We have also studied that a typical bus consists of three sets of lines, that is address, data and control lines. The control signals specify whether a read or write operation is to be performed. A signal read-write line specifies a read operation when it is set to 1 or write operation when it is set to 0. Now the bus control signals are also carry timing information to specify the times at which the processor and the input output device may place data on the bus or receive data from the bus. Now in any data transfer operation, one device plays the role of a bus master, which initiates data transfer by issuing a read or a write command on the bus. The master is also called as the initiator. Now we call it as an initiator. Initiator is nothing but it is a master, or we also call it as an initiator. It is nothing but it is a device which initiates data transfer. Okay. And the device addressed by the master is referred to as slave or target. The timing of data transfer over a bus is classified into two types, that is synchronous and asynchronous. So today we are going to learn about these two. Now all devices drive timing information for a control line called the bus clock, and the timing diagram here it shows an idealized representation of the actions that take place on the bus line. Now we will try to analyze this and we will learn how timing diagrams are being represented and what these timing diagrams tell us. In synchronous bus, as I told you, all devices derive timing information from a common clock line. Now, equally spaced pulses on this line define equal time interval. Now, each of these interval constitutes a bus cycle. So, you can see here I have represented with an arrow here, from here till here. So, this is nothing but this is our one clock cycle, that is one high and one low, right? Now each of these interval constitute a bus cycle, and during which one data transfer can take place. So we have shown here also, this is the data representation we have shown here. So within one clock cycle, one data transfer takes place. Now the address and data lines are indicated here. I have written here address and the command, and this is the data line. They are indicated here. Now as we are showing here that some lines are high and some are low, depending on the particular address of data pattern being transmitted. That's why we try to represent here with cross. Now these crossing points indicate the time at which these pattern changes. Now let's try to see a sequence of operations for a for input or read operation. So this diagram is representing a read, or you can say input operation. So whenever the processor is performing a read or the user is inputting, now we are going to try represent that using timing diagrams. Now I have denoted here the time instances like T0, T1, T2. So these instances are going to tell us the time. So at time T0, at time T1, at time T2, what happens? Okay. Now at time T0, the processor places the device address. You can see here address and command we have here. Now instead of showing them like this square waves, we are trying to show them with two parallel lines, okay, because it is very difficult to represent the changing sequence pattern. So instead of that, what we try to do is we just try to show with two parallel lines. Okay, I'll clear it so that we can explain it much better. Okay. So at a time T0, the processor places the device address here. You can see here it places the device address on the address lines and sends an appropriate command on the control line to indicate an input operation. So I can show the address and command line both separate, or I can simply indicate in the same signal also. Information gets transmitted over the bus at a speed determined by its physical and electrical characteristics. The clock pulse width, that is from T0 to T1, or we say it as T1 to T0, it must be greater than the maximum propagation delay between the processor and any device connected to the bus. Now it also has to belong enough to allow all devices to decode the addresses and control signals so that the address device or the slave can respond at a time T1. So it should be big enough so that the addresses are decoded and the slave can decode the address and respond back. Now the information on the bus during the period T0 to T1 is unreliable, because during that time the slave hasn't recognized the device yet. Now the slave places the request, that is the requested input data on the data lines at time T1. Now at the end of the clock cycle, that is by the time T2, the processor, which we call as a master, it strobes. Strobes means it captures the data on the data line into its input buffer. For proper data loading, the period T2 to T1 must be greater than the maximum propagation time on the bus plus the setup time of the input buffer register of the processor. Now this is what is written here. Whatever I have just explained, the same thing is represented. But the exact times at which the signals change state are somewhat different from idealized representation because of propagation delay on the bus wires and in the circuits of the devices. Now in the previous diagram here we have shown here that the change in data is exactly at these points. So we said at time t0 address and command are going to be put, and exactly at t1 by time t1 the slave sees the address and decodes the address and it puts the data, and by time t2 the data that is seen by the master and it is absorbed by the master. We have shown it exactly at the rising edge as well as the falling edge of the timing cycle, but in practical it is not so. Now let's see how to represent the practical values. Now in this figure it is showing the actual timing diagram of data transfer. A given signal transition is seen by different devices at different times. Now this figure shows the signal as seen by the master as well as by the slave. Now the master sends the address and command signal on the rising edge at the beginning of the clock period at T0, but these signals appear on the bus after a time that is TAM due to the delay in the bus driver circuit. Now at time TAS, here at time TAS the signal reaches the slave. Now the slave decodes the address and at time T1, yeah, it sends the requested data. The slave puts the requested data on the data line. The data signal do not appear on the bus until TDS. Now they travel towards the master and arrive at time TDM. At T2, the master loads the data into its input buffer. Hence, the time period T2 to this time period T2 to TDM is the setup time of the master input buffer, and the data must be valid after T2 for a period equal to hold time. This one for a period equal to hold time of this buffer. And now this slide represents whatever I just explained. Now in exam you people are supposed to write in the same format. So go through it systematically and write it in the required format. Now however the previous scheme, bus transfer scheme, it has its own limitations. Okay, now what are these limitations? Now because a transfer has to be completed within one clock cycle, the clock period it should be longer than the longest delay on the bus, and also it should be able to see the slowest device interface, and this forces all devices to operate at the speed of the slowest device. To overcome these limitations, bus must have control signals that represent a response from the devices. These signals inform the master that the slave has recognized its address and it is ready. The duration of the data transfer period is also adjusted to suit the needs of the devices. A high frequency clock is used such that a complete data transfer would take several clock cycles, and this approach is called as a multiple cycle transfer. So we shall see the diagram of multiple cycle data transfer. Now this timing diagram, it shows synchronous bus operation using multiple cycle transfer. During clock cycle 1, that is at this point, okay, the master sends address and command information on the bus, requesting a read operation. You can see here the master is sending address and command, requesting a read operation. The slave receives this information and it decodes it. On the next, that is during the second cycle, that is on the next clock edge. At the beginning of the second clock cycle, slave begins to access the request data. The data becomes ready and are placed on the bus in the third cycle. By third cycle, it will fetch the data and it will place it on the data line. Now at the same time, the slave, it asserts a control signal called slave ready. It will generate a signal, that is assertion, saying it has seen the master's command and it has already fetched the data and it has placed it on the data line. Okay, called the slave asserts a control signal called slave ready. Now after receiving this signal, the master stores the data into its input buffer at the end of third cycle. By third cycle, the master will see this and it will absorb the data into its buffer. The bus transfer is complete and the master may send a new address to start the new transfer. So by the end of cycle 4, all the data from the data line is removed and the master is ready to send the new address. So after third clock cycle, the master can put the new address, that is during the fourth cycle. Okay, so the slave ready signal is actually an acknowledgement to indicate that valid data has been sent by the slave. It also allows the duration of a bus transfer to change from one device to other. If the address device does not respond at all, the master waits for some predefined maximum number of clock cycles. Then it aborts the operation. Now, in the same way, if it is for write or output, it is for output or say write operations. Now the same procedure will be followed. It is similar to that of the input operation. The processor sends the address and places the output data on the data lines. It then issues a write command signal at time t1. The address device, it strobes the data line and loads the data into its data buffer. Now if in an exam he may ask either to write the timing signals for read operation or for write operation. So for write operation, you have to just change the signals from below to up, that's all. Now coming to synchronous bus. Now in the previous this one, the master has to wait for certain time without knowing whether the slave has sent the signal or not, sent the data or not. So to overcome this, we are going to use another method, that is asynchronous bus. Now an alternative scheme for controlling data transfer on a bus is based on the use of handshake protocol between the master and the slave. A handshake is an exchange of command and response signals between the master and the slave. So just like if two people are talking and two people are standing at a longer distance, suppose say we are not able to listen to each other's voice. Now if I am sending him something, then I would like to indicate that to the next person who is standing at the far distance by waving my hand. Okay, so the next person who is looking at me, he may also wave the hand saying, yes, I have received the item, or I have understood that you have listened to me. In the same way, the handshaking exchange or commands also take place. Now, in asynchronous bus, the master places the address and command information on the bus. Then it indicates to all devices that it has done so by activating the master ready line. We have one more line called master ready line. Now in this causes all devices to decode the address. The selected slave performs the required operation and informs the processor that it has done so by activating the slave ready line. Now when the master has put its address on the address line and it has initiated the master ready line, all slaves will be able to decode this address, and the slave who recognizes the address, it will send a signal to the processor saying, yes, I have seen the address and I will send the data, by initiating or activating the slave ready signal. So the slave will send a signal as slave ready line. Now the master waits for slave ready to become asserted before it removes its signal from the bus. Until the slave sends slave ready signal, the master will be waiting. Once it sees the slave ready signal, it will remove the signal from the bus. In the case of a read operation, it also loads the data into one of its register if it is a read operation. Now the same thing is shown here diagrammatically. So this is a diagram for input operation. Now in this, here also we have mentioned as T0, T1, T2, T3, T4 and T5. Now we shall see how it works. Now at time T0, the master places the address and command information on the bus, and all devices on the bus decode this information. So at this point, that is at T0, you can see here the address and commands are being put, and this will be decoded by all the slaves connected to the bus. Now at T1, the master sets the master ready line to 1. So it activates the master ready line. It makes the line high. Now the delay from T0 to T1, this delay, it is used to allow for any skew on the bus. Skew means you can say bus skew occurs when two signals simultaneously transmitted from one source arrive at the destination at different times. Though both the signals are transferred at the same time, but they reach at the destination at different times. This happens because different lines on the bus may have different propagation speed, and because of this propagation speed, address may reach first, then the master ready may reach later, or master ready may reach first, address may reach later. That's why to remove this ambiguity, first the addresses and commands are being placed on the address line, and after a time period, that is from T0 to T1, the master ready is put on the line. So to guarantee that the master ready signal does not reach any device ahead to the address and command information. Now the delay from T1 to T0, it should be large than the maximum possible bus queue. This delay also accounts for the time required by any device to decode the address. Now at T2, here the selected slave, after decoding the information, performs the required input operation by placing the data from its data register on the data lines. It also sets the slave ready signal to 1. So you can see here it is putting slave ready signal, or it is activating the slave ready signal to 1. Now the time period T2 to T1, this time period, it depends on the distance between the master and the slave and on the delays introduced by slave interface circuit. Now this is the factor which gives the bus its asynchronous nature. That is why we say it is not in synchronization with the clock cycle. So one will be larger, one will be smaller, one will be larger. It is not at the fixed timing. Okay. Now at T3, here at T3, the slave ready signal arrives at the master, indicating that it will arrive at the master. You can see here it is shown like this. It will arrive at the master, indicating that the input data are available on the bus. Now after a delay equivalent to the maximum bus queue and minimum setup time of master input buffer, the master strobes the data into its input buffer. Strobes means it captures the data into its input buffer. Now at the same time, it drops the master ready signal, indicating that it has received the data. So the master ready signal goes low here, indicating that it has already received the data. Now at time T4, the master removes the address and command information from the bus. You can see here it removes the address and command information from the bus. Now the delay from T4 to T3, this delay is also used to allow the bus queue. Now at T5, when the device interface receives the 1 to 0 transition of the master ready signal, it removes the data and slave ready. Once it receives this, it removes the slave ready as well as the data from the bus. Now this completes the input transfer. Now the same thing I have just tried to write here and show here. So make sure that during exam you write it in the same fashion. You have to mention what happens at T0, what happens at T1, T2, what do you mean by sleep, okay, T3, T4, T5. Okay. This figure, it shows the timing for an output operation. In this case, the master places the output data on the data line, and at the same time it sends the address and command information. Here you can see at time T0, it sends the address and command information. The selected slave, when it receives the master ready signal, you can see here when it receives the master ready signal, it strobes the data into its output buffer and indicates so by setting the slave ready to 1. So from the previous diagram and this diagram, the handshake signals are fully interlocked. Change of the state in one signal is followed by a change in the other signal, and this full handshake scheme, it provides highest degree of flexibility and reliability. Now the main advantage of asynchronous bus is that it eliminates the need for synchronization of the sender and the receiver clocks, and the timing of data transfer can be adjusted easily for different delays introduced by the interface circuits. But the rate of data transfer is slower compared to the synchronous bus. So in the next video, we will see about interface circuits. So till then, please read the textbooks and try to practice these timing diagrams. These are some of the expected questions. So take care. Thank you.